In Star Wars, planets have a tendency of being monolithic. The character of planets is often consistent across thousands of years in Star Wars media. Tatooine is always the backwater desert, Coruscant is always the center of the galaxy, and so on. But not all planets stayed the same over the millennia, and some worlds played vastly different roles in different eras of galactic history. One such planet was Telos 4, a world with a troubled history that saved the Republic in one war and fought against it in another.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Telos was discovered by the Republic in the years after the Great Hyperspace War, and for several centuries, it was a blessed world, prosperous and peaceful. It was a major Republic foothold in a little explored part of the Outer Rim, and during the Mandalorian Wars, it was an important Republic military stronghold. It was also the homeworld of the Agricultural Corps, a joint Republic Jedi Order initiative that allowed Jedi initiates who failed to become Padawans to serve the galaxy as farmers, using their limited Force talents to nurture crops. All told, Telos was a beautiful planet, but all that changed when the Sith attacked. At the start of the Jedi Civil War, Telos was one of the first planets targeted by Darth Revan's Sith Empire. On the command of Darth Malak, Admiral Saw Karath led a Sith fleet to Telos and razed the entire surface of the planet, killing most of the population and devastating its ecology. The bombardment turned Telos' surface to ash and made its atmosphere toxic and corrosive, forcing the entire Telosian population to evacuate. Telos wasn't the only planet to suffer such a fate during the old Sith Wars, and after the Jedi Civil War was over, the Galactic Senate began an initiative to restore these destroyed worlds. It chose to begin with Telos, inviting a herd of Ithorians to terraform the planet back to life. In the hard years after the Jedi Civil War, the Republic was struggling just to keep itself together, but it nonetheless put everything into the Telos Restoration Project. In desperation, it banked everything on the hope that this ruined world could be revived. The Restoration Project faced many challenges along the way. It depended on fuel from Paragus II and imports of flora and fauna from Onderon, causing problems when Paragus was destroyed and Onderon descended into civil war. The greatest threat of all was Darth Nihilus, who, in 3951 BBY, attacked Telos and attempted to destroy it again. But with the help of Jedi exile Mitra Surik and her allies, the Telosians and the Republic rallied, and Telos was able to overcome all of these threats. Telos' trade issues were resolved, Darth Nihilus was destroyed, and the Restoration Project was allowed to continue. Telos, ultimately, was what allowed the Republic to survive this period known as the Dark Wars. The Telosians themselves, of course, could do little to help the Republic, but the idea of the Restoration Project ended up being a much-needed rallying point. As the reduced Republic military struggled just to patrol its own territory, it drew a line at Telos, showing up to defend the planet when Darth Nihilus attacked and attempted to destroy it again. Telos was where the Republic and the greater galaxy decided that they would decline no further. They would stand back up and fight to put the galaxy back together. It was where the allies of the Jedi rallied and destroyed Darth Nihilus, ending the terrible threat the Lord of Hunger posed to the galaxy. Above all, it was a symbol of hope, and the Republic would not have survived without it. The Telos Restoration Project wasn't only insanely expensive, but an incredible amount of work. The Republic and Telosians started by building an enormous space station, Citadel Station, above the planet, a construct so enormous that it covered a full quarter of the planet. On the planet below, the Ithorians, with the help of Zabrak engineer Bao-Dur, built a network of shield walls that divided Telos into restoration zones. The Ithorians then worked on the restoration zones one by one, using Citadel Station to scrub and rebalance the atmosphere while they implanted Onderonian flora and fauna on the surface below. To the Ithorians, the most important step of the process was a religious one. They performed every step of the task with great reverence, and their ultimate focus was opening the planet back up to the Force so that it could thrive again. The Ithorians were eventually successful. When their work was finished, Telos was not only restored, but improved. It was generally acknowledged that the Ithorians made Telos even more beautiful than it had been before, bringing life back to the planet with renewed vigor. Its barren wastelands became flowery meadows and verdant forests. At first, Telos' primary industry was agriculture, as it had been before the Jedi Civil War, but Telosian agriculture was quickly overshadowed by tourism, which made Telos a prosperous world once more. For centuries, the Telosians took great pride in the beauty of their homeworld, banning industrial development across much of the countryside, preserving plenty of land for use as national parks, and protected sacred places. In urban areas, business thrived, and many major technological advancements happened on Telos, such as the development of opaque transparasteel. The planet also became a cultural hub with a thriving artist community, many members of which derived inspiration from the planet's restored natural beauty. In short, Telos had become the Alderaan of the Outer Rim, except without that whole monarchy business. But Telos' prosperity didn't last. For reasons unknown, the last century of Republic history was extremely hard on Telos. In 94 BBY, the planet was swept by a severe famine, the effects of which continued to be felt for decades. But the worst blow came 40 years later, when Telos suffered a destructive civil war. In 53 BBY, Governor Cryon of Telos attempted to renegotiate a treaty with a neighboring planet, and as a formality, the Jedi Order dispatched a team to monitor the negotiations. The Jedi sent were Qui-Gon Jinn and his first Padawan, Xanatos. As it turned out, Xanatos was Cryon's son, who the governor had given to the Order as an infant. Cryon had come to regret giving up his son in the years since, and he was overjoyed to see Xanatos again. Xanatos, for his part, was deeply conflicted about seeing his father. Indeed, the reason the Jedi Council had sent him on this mission was so that he could confront and overcome the strong emotions he often struggled with. As it turned out, this was a colossal mistake. Cryon revealed to Xanatos that his real motives for renegotiating the treaty were to dominate the neighboring planet and seize control of its industry and resources for Telos, and he asked his son to help him accomplish this goal. He eventually won Xanatos over to helping him, and Xanatos attempted to keep Qui-Gon in the dark about the whole thing. But Qui-Gon found out anyway, and unaware of his apprentice's role in the plot, he revealed Cryon's scheme to the people of Telos, who were outraged. The Telosians rose up in revolution against Governor Cryon, but rather than back down and submit to the people, Cryon and his son hired a mercenary army and ordered them to slaughter the masses in a bid to quell the uprising. Qui-Gon ultimately helped the people overthrow Cryon, but he was forced to kill the governor in the process, which pushed Xanatos to the dark side. After the Telosian civil war, the people of Telos purged the government of corruption and began to rebuild once more. But a decade later, Xanatos returned. By this point, he had settled into a new role as a renegade Dark Jedi, and in 44 BBY, he used the power of the dark side and a clique of corporate allies to seize control of Telos. He manipulated the Telosian populace with extensive propaganda, making the once peaceful people much more violent and distracting them from his misdeeds with regular gladiatorial shows. All the while, Xanatos and his corporate allies began desecrating the sacred places, exploiting parts of them for resources. Xanatos was ultimately foiled by Qui-Gon and his latest apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who exposed Xanatos' misdeeds and helped the Telosians drive him and his allies from the government. The second crisis ended when Xanatos committed suicide to avoid facing justice for his crimes, and the Telosian government was purged once more. But this time, the damage was done. The corporation Xanatos had brought to Telos remained, and they continued to enjoy great influence in the government and access the resources of the sacred places. During the Clone Wars, Telos joined the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The reason is unknown, but it likely had something to do with the influence of separatist-aligned corporations or the crises the Jedi had inadvertently caused. Either way, Telos went from being the savior of the Republic to joining in its destruction. Hopefully the people of Telos managed to turn things around for their planet again, though they wouldn't have the opportunity for a while, as the Empire was pretty brutal to Telos as well. But what do you think? Are there other planets you'd like to hear the stories of? Feel free to post your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.